Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering video. So this is another video from the Set Musings series. It's a sort of special edition. So I've just gone through with previous episodes and looked at Tempest Block. And what I wanted to do is, when I finish a block, is to do a Set Musing episodes from a block, from a set, from another set that's connected in some way. And that's the plan going forward. And so next week, when we move on to Urzas, once I get all the my way through the Urzas block, doing various videos, at the end of that, there will be like a Set Musings for a related set in some way, and I'm just going to decide once I've gone through the block what, how that's related. And invariably it'll be always either the next decade on or 2 decades on, depending on how old the set is. So for this one, for the Tempest block, I'm actually going to do 2 related sets. I'm going to do one from, which would have been the 2000s, and then I'm going to do one from the 2010s. So this is my one from the 2000s. It's Time Spiral, and anybody knows that about Time Spiral will see why it's an obvious choice for the Tempest block. Now I've sort of set a bit of a rod for my back here, because as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on in the set. I did know this before I started researching this. I've unboxed or opened packs of this set. Actually, there's live, or actual physical card openings of both tournament packs and boosters for this block. So if you're interested in that, then those are in my videos. So I am somewhat aware of this. I've also drafted this on Magic the Gathering Online way back when they did a year of modern drafts. And yeah, it's an interesting set to build around. I imagine actually drafting it is probably better than trying to do a sealed portal. Simply because you can, be a bit more selective in what angle you take. And that's the problem with this. So just to give you some point of reference if you're not familiar with this set. So the set itself, the Time Spiral set, had 301 cards in it. There's 121 commons, 80 uncommons, 80 rares, and there were actually 20 basic lands, which you'll see the artwork for that. Now, in addition, there were 121 time-shifted cards. So the booster packs had a time-shifted slot in them where those 121 cards, one of those, went. The time-shifted cards themselves were cards from pre-Mirrodin, so they're reprints, but what they did, regardless of where they were from, whether they were from, sets which had new borders or sets which had old borders, each card in that pre-Mirrodin subset had the old 7th edition card frame on them and a purple expansion symbol. So those are treated as a separate entity. Now, fortunately, in Scryfall, they are catalogued separately. Where did I? And actually no, I'll come on to that later in the video. Actually, that's what I was planning on doing. So yeah, we're going to go through all the cycles first, and then and all the other things which I'll explain in a moment, and then we'll get on to those cards. So we'll get the main Time Spiral set out of the way first of all, and then we'll move on to those time shifted cards. Now, the themes and mechanics and the keywords and ability words. So I'm just going to rattle these off. We will go through these individually in the different tabs. So we have the time shifted cards, which we'll look at the end. Rebels are a thing. Slivers, there's one of our connections. Spellshapers, Phthalates, Buyback, there's another connection back to Tempest. Echo, Flanking, Flash, Flashback, Madness, Morph, Shadow, another connection. Split Second, Storm, and Suspend. So yeah, ton of stuff going on. To make it slightly more complicated within those mechanics, abilities, and themes, there were cycles. So I apologize if when I go through this I don't tick every combination, if you like. It's a tricky thing to pull off. I do have the 20 cycles up on my second screen in front of me, so hopefully I'm going to get them all. That's the plan anyway. So here's the set as a whole, or sorry, the actual main time spiral set, and we'll come back to this and we'll go through individually for those cards that I haven't specifically covered as part of a mechanic or a cycle or whatever. And I was just going to go and move down to the bottom, actually. That's why I'd come in here. So yeah, here's our artwork for our lands. There's a number of non-basic lands in here as well. But our basic land artwork, you can see we've basically got 4 types of artwork for each colour of mana. So let's dive in with some degree of trepidation or dread. Right, so rebels were a thing in the set. They were all in white, and let's make sure this is, you can see this. There we go. So we had Amaru's Scout, which allowed you to search out other rebel cards for the cost of 4 and tapping it. But they had to be mana cost 3 or less. So you can see down here, that's easily going to search out any one of these. Now I'm just looking through here to see whether any other of these actually cared about rebels. And I don't think they did. So there's what I'm getting at is there's no, in terms of the rules text, they're not really following a specific rebel template. You can see they do a variety of things, and they include other abilities which we're going to see in a moment, like flanking and shadow. But they do lots of different things here. So this can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or white creatures. Children of Corliss. Sacrifice Children of Corliss. You gain life equal to the life you've lost this turn. Errant Doomsayer. Tap target creature with toughness 2 or less. Knight of the Holy Nimbus had flanking on it, so whenever a creature without flanking blocks this creature, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. If this card's destroyed, it would you regenerate it, and for a cost of 2, it can't be regenerated this turn. Only an opponent may play this ability. Okay. Outrider in Core's got flanking on it as well, and for a cost of 0, the next 1 damage that will be dealt to Outrider in Core this turn is dealt to target creature you control. And then the Zealot Ilvek, which is a creature human rebel, had shadow on it, and there was also some damage shenanigans on this one as well. So yes, there's a rebel tribe in here, and that's the thing is what I'm flagging up here is the tribal aspect, But again, you'll notice it's not often like you see with other cards. There is, like we saw with the spikes, there's that similar aspect to the rules templating going on. Here it's all over the shop, and the common denominator is that they're all rebels, and you have this one which can actually seek them out. So this is a good example. These are all at common. So this set, as we go through it, you'll see this set works a lot better drafting. At some point, we're going to come to this set as part of the deck turtle, and so it's going to be interesting to see what the hell a sealed pool looks like. So yeah, that's going to be strange. So moving on. Oh look, slivers. Cool. So yeah, and slivers were definitely heavily represented in this set. You can see we've got white, blue, black, red, green, multicolored, and also a artifact creature sliver. And all of them, I think, yeah, have all slivers have, and then some sort of ability. So we've got flying. There's also a bit of graveyard shenanigans going on here on the rare hormonic sliver. Damage, flanking. What do they call that? Bottom breathing, I think. Ping. What's that? Okay, mill on it. Shadow, tap down, mana generation, card discard. It's 5/5 for 4, so the downside is that all slivers have at the beginning of your upkeep, this creature deals 2 damage to you. Okay. Vampiric sliver. Whenever a creature deals damage to the creature this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Bone splitter. Actually, no, what I'm saying, it's not bottom breathing, is it? It's just you're pumping the toughness. Bottom breathing is where it has a activation cost, and you can increase this amount. So yeah, my mistake there. Just realised when I saw this. So this is pumps power. Gives all slivers double strike for the Fury sliver, Sedge sliver. Wow. +1/+1 as long as you control a swamp. So it's got some blocking stuff going on. +1/+1 counters. That's the fungus sliver. Gemhide sliver is mana generation +2/+2. On the Might sliver, Spinneret sliver behaves like a spider. Gives everything else, including itself, the ability to block creatures as though it had flying. And you can see we've got two colour ones here. Card draw. Specific card discard. Makes all slivers colourless. Haste and sack ability. Harmonic sliver. Target enchantment. And then this was just a sliver. No special ability. 3/3 for 5. Now within this, there were obviously there were slivers, but there were some cycles going on. So there was a cycle of common slivers. I don't know how easy this is to spot. So these were all the 1/1s. So there's a number of 1/1 slivers at common. There was a slight cycle of just common slivers that weren't 1/1. in each of the colours. There was uncommon multicoloured slivers, so those are the ones at the bottom down there. And there was a cycle of rare slivers as well. There was also a cycle of uncommon uncommon monocoloured slivers and uncommon multicoloured slivers. So that's 5 cycles just for the slivers. Five fives are 25. This is 26 because we've got the fencer sliver. So every one of these slivers was part of a cycle. Moving on. So there was a cycle of Spellshapers, which was actually in the subtype of the creature. It wasn't in the name, but it was in the subtype. And you can see here, we'll ignore, I just did a search basically on Spellshapers in the type. So I would have got this legendary creature come up as well. This wasn't part of the cycle, obviously. But you can see all of these have an ability which you activate and then tap the card. Or sorry, a cost, should I say. So a cost to the ability, and then you tap the card. And then you discard a card. And then there's some other ability that gets triggered. So the white one, it's tokens. The blue one, it's bounce. The black one is life loss, life gain. +1, -1 for the Flowstone Channeler. I'm trying to remember, was that a peculiarity of Flowstone stuff? I'm not sure. And then Green Seeker, discard a card, search your library for a basic land card. You know, the score. So these are all abilities that you would associate with that particular colour. So that was a cycle of common Spellshapers. The idea was the activated ability specifically resembled a common card from Magic's past. So this would have been something that would have been printed on a non-creature spell at some point. There was Phthalates in the set, in green and black. So we got 1, 2, 5, of which 4 are common, 1 is uncommon. And you can see this one, the templating on the rules are a little bit more consistent. So you can see that there's this interaction going on between spore counters and putting sapling creatures into play, and it looks like all of these have the ability to do that in some way. I'm just looking, actually, this one, okay, so you get to put, so that one at the beginning of your upkeep, put a spore counter on. Same with that one, same with that one, and that one. Yeah, so they all get to put, you all get to put spore counters on at during upkeep, beginning of your upkeep. And then there's an ability on all of them to do something with those spore counters. So, and it looks like all of them, you remove 3 of them, and then that generates a sapling creature token. But then a few of them have got an additional ability as well. So if you to do something with those saplings, so if you sack a sapling, and this is in play, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. On the Savage Phthalate, you can sacrifice a sapling and use it to regenerate a fungus. On the Phthalate Germinator, you can sack a sapling and target creature gets +1/+1. So that's what was going on with the Phthalates, which were funguses. Okay, so we had Buyback. Now, you can see here there's, 7 cards with Buyback on them. The cycle within this is the rare cards. And so within the Buyback cards there's a cycle going on, a 5-card cycle. They're just rare sorceries with Buyback. The odd ones out are the 2 instants. And we've seen this with, the previous episodes where I've looked at the Tempest Block. In addition to Buyback costs which feature mana, there are additional other ones where you can, in this one you sacrifice 3 islands. Discard 2 cards on the demonic collusion. So as I've said before, with Buyback, what that would enable you to do is, if you have the amount, the appropriate amount of mana to pay in addition to the actual cost, so you're paying it on top of it, when the spell resolves, it goes back into your hand. And you can see why Buyback spells are popular in formats like EDH, where you could have like a ton of mana and you want to be able to get your spells back because you're in a multiplayer format. Echo was a thing. So this isn't a cycle. It's just a set of cards, all in red. They've all got Echo on them. So with Echo, or actually they're all related to Echo in some way. These ones here all have Echo, and this one cares about Echo. So with Echo, let's look at this one. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its Echo cost. So what happens is, you obviously cast this for 2 in a red, and then during your upkeep, you have to pay an additional 2 in a red, or it gets sacrificed. Now it looks like in addition to the Echo cost, a number of these have additional abilities on them. So the Basalt Gargoyle, 0/+1, bottom breathing, so for a cost of red. There we go. This one comes into play, deals 2 damage. When it leaves play, it deals 4 damage. So with this one, you might want to not pay the Echo cost. That's interesting, just to get that effect. It doesn't have anything beyond the Echo. When it comes into play, or is put into a graveyard from play, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token into play. So that's Goblin War Marshal. Subterranean Shambler. So you can see several of these. 3 of these have an effect that triggers when they come into play, and then another effect that triggers when they leave play. So it gives you a lot more options as to whether or not you pay that echo cost and what that's going to give you if you don't. That one's fairly straightforward. If it's, for all the time, as long as it's in play, it attacks each turn if able. And this one basically has echo in it, but it's not, there's no echo cost involved. It just, you may pay 0 rather than pay the echo cost for permanents you control. So obviously that's a really handy card to have if you're going down the echo route. And also has protection from red until end of turn, so useful for dodging red removal. Oh, a return of flanking. So we didn't get flanking in all colours. So it wasn't a cycle, just just cards with flanking on them. And 9 cards. So you can see where the problems are here. There is just so much going on in this set with all these different keywords and abilities. So with flanking, whenever a creature without flanking blocks this creature, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And then for some of these cards, you get additional abilities on top of that. Interestingly enough, there's also a sliver in amongst this, which we've seen earlier, and a rebel as well. In fact, there's a couple of rebels here which have flanking. So anything that's not a rebel or a sliver looks like it's a knight. See, this is a hark back to Gus, the Gus cloak mechanic. I don't know. Well, I wasn't aware that there was a massive amount of this in the set, but certainly there was another set. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head, that had a lot of cards which had this ability on them. And from what I remember, they were all Gus cloaks something. Regeneration, damage prevention. We've seen this. Oh, it's a rebel knight. There you go. I didn't spot that. So yeah, both a knight and a rebel. This has got permanent destruction of a certain colour. When Skull King Knight becomes a target, a spell or ability, sacrifice it. Okay. And then finally, I forgot about this one actually, the red one. Becomes colourless until end of turn. So there's your flanking cards. Flashback was a thing. So with Flashback, you can see these all had different costs. The interesting thing is the mana colour was the same as the card, and others it was a different colour. So there was actually a cycle of those. So allied colour in that the casting cost colour and the flashback colour of mana were allied colours. So that's the white one, or white blue. Mystical Teachings, blue black. Strangling Soot, black red. Ancient Grudge, red green. And then Thrill of the Hunt, green white. And then we have this legend here which gives instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard flashback until end of turn. So that's one that's popped up. So what can I tell you about flashback? Well, so we've got the flashback cost, and for that cost you may play this card from the graveyard for its flashback cost, then remove it from the game. And we've seen this in later sets in Magic. So Flash was in here as well. And there were, I believe, if I can see them, I haven't got them on here. I'll have to, if I haven't prepared them, it's one I did forget about actually, thinking about it. I'm going to see if I can modify this. I can do this on the fly. So we've got flash creatures. I believe there was a cycle of flash auras as well. I've accidentally picked that one up because it had Flashback in here, so it's pulled it. So you may play this spell anytime you would play an instant. So creatures obviously don't normally do that, but by adding flash for them you get that ability. And they've got lots of different things in combination with that. So split second, pump for white creatures, defender, can block an additional creature. This one's got flying on it. It's interesting with the flash cards to also look and see what ETB effects they have, because obviously that's pretty critical in combination with flash. Okay, so let's try this and see if I can do this. There we go. So there's our cycle of flash auras, enchantment auras, which is pretty cool because you can flash that in and attach it to a creature. You can see they all give or do something to the creature. Madness was in the set, so with Madness, if you discard this card, you may play it for its Madness cost instead of putting it into your graveyard. All in black. And all different casting costs. Morph was in here as well. So with Morph, there is obviously a casting cost, but on top of that, so you've got the regular casting cost. Alternatively, you can play the card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3, and you'll notice that's the same regardless. But to morph it, you pay this cost and then you turn it up any time for its morph cost. And that's any time you can do that. Now again, you'll see that there's certain things get triggered when you do that. So some of these will have where it says, you know, when this is, say this one for example was turned face up, each opponent skips his step. Cold Trickster, you get to tap or untap a target permanent. Draw cards on the Fathom Seer, Fledging Macaw. Not everyone, actually, interesting enough, has those abilities. So a little bit of variability in the template there. But you can see the actual casting cost if you choose to want to morph it later is always 3. This one here also, interestingly enough, cares about saplings. And we saw that cycle earlier of, what was it? Not cycle, but we saw the Phthalates from earlier that were in green and black. So the cycle of morph creatures within this 10 morph cards. So there's a cycle of 5. They're all at rare. And they're all rare creatures with the morph and abilities that allude to cards from Magic's past. So there's the white one. The blue one is Vesuvian Shapeshifter. We've got Liege of the Pit. I wonder what that's similar to. Fortune Thief and Phthalates Hermit. Oh, here's our shadow cards. So white, blue, black, red, green. Well, actually the green is not. In fact, some of these are going to be creatures and some of these just care about shadow or do something. So there's enchantments in here. But you can see clearly shadow's a thing in here. But again, they've mixed it up with other abilities as well that we've seen already. Okay, split second. So what can we say about split second? So a couple of cycles here. There were the rare cycle, so one in each colour, and the uncommon cycle. So the rare split second were just rare instants with split second, and the uncommons were uncommon spells with split second, but there was one in each of the colours. So with split second, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't play spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So we've got a mixture of things here. You can see most of these are instants, so it gives them a little bit more. There is one, I think just one creature here, which is a Celestial Crusader, but it has flash on it, so it does, can be played at the same point as an instant as you would play an instant. Oh, Storm we had in blue and red. Oh, sorry, made a mistake there. It's because you got Stormcloud in it. So Storm in red, my mistake. Yeah, there'll be a few of those like that where some of the searches, I could probably do slightly more nuanced searches, but when you're doing this many, you can see that I didn't want to spend hours trying to prep this up. So we've Empty the Warrens, Grape Shot, Ground Rift, Ignite Memories, and Volcanic Awakening. So with Storm, what happens is when you play this spell, copy it for each spell you played before it this turn. So these are all just regular spells. You can see they're all at sorcery speed in terms of what they do, but they have this additional thing stapled on them, which allows you to copy them based on the spells that have gone before this turn. So all in red. Suspend. 28 cards with Suspend on it. So these were interesting. There is, I think, just one within this. There is one cycle, and that cycle of is at rare. So I'll try and show you here, look, how you can spot them. So you'll notice the rare ones in the cycle all have no casting cost on them. Again, there's a few here that have snuck through because they mention they care about suspend cards, which we'll come on to in a moment. But they see Living End, there's the black one. Where's the, oh there, Wheel of Fate, and then Hypergenesis. So how does it work? Well, with Suspend, we'll use Restore Balance as an example because that was the first one I pointed out that didn't have any mana cost to it. And then we'll look at one that does have a mana cost. So Suspend 6. So what happens is, rather than play the card from your hand, you pay the casting cost. So you can see here it says Suspend 6 and then the casting cost. So this is the suspend value and this is the casting cost. And if you look at all of these ones, it's all, I think it's all a single. Actually, Hypergenesis is the exception there, thinking about it, yeah. So what happens is, rather than play it from your hand, you pay the suspend cost and then you move it from the game with 4 or however many, whatever suspend level it is. So this one's suspend 4. So you put 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter, and when you move the last, you play it. So this one here, Restore Balance, had 6 on it, so you'd suspend it for a single white, and then after the 6 counters have been removed, it's played. Now with the other ones, which do have a regular casting cost on them, you have a choice, and you notice it does actually say that you have a choice. So rather than play this card from your hand, you may P1 and remove it from the game and blah blah blah. So you could pay this for 5 and 2 white, or you could play it for a single white, then suspend it for 5. Now the thing about the rares, the reason why I pointed them out, apart from the fact that they actually have no casting cost on them, so your only choice is to suspend them, they have an effect which is similar to a powerful spell from Magic's history, or is a powerful spell from Magic's history. So you can see what this one obviously is alluding to. Additionally, we have this, which is Lotus Bloom, which you could argue is the 6th card of the cycle in colourless, which is obviously emulating Black Lotus to some degree. So suspend for 3, rather than pay this card from your hand, pay 0 and remove it from the game with 3 time counters on it. Beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When you remove the last player, play it without paying its mana cost. Sacrifice Lotus Bloom, add 3 mana. So what the suspend is effectively doing is making the card less broken, I suppose. So eventually you get the same effect as a historical powerful spell from Magic's past, which invariably was broken, but because you're delaying when it can go out, that's, you know, putting some restraints on it. Now of course you can abuse this, because there's ways that you can play around with the time counters. in the right circumstances. Oh look, there you go. George Time Bug. Oh, there was Cycle of Magi, not Maguses, but Magi. Rare human wizard creatures with the converted mana cost and abilities of a powerful artifact from Magic's history. So you're getting if you haven't sussed it out already, a lot of these cards are nods to Magic's past. And there's lots of ways they've done this. They've done it by like stapling abilities onto creatures, or just out and out resurrecting an old magic ability, or taking a card and nerfing it in some way by adding a new ability which dials the card back a little bit but can still be abused in some circumstances. Oh, cycle of totems on for each colour, so they all can be tapped to add a particular colour to your mana pool. They're 3 to cast, but also you can actually turn it into a creature. And you can see that with some of them there's extra abilities on here as well. So it's your cycle of totems. So I'm just reading the notes here. So uncommon artifacts with tap add M and an activated ability to turn the card into a creature on the reserve list with the cost of that creature's mana. Interesting. So let me see if I can get these a bit better on the screen. So what are these? So there was a cycle of Rancor-like auras. So these are all uncommon auras that grant the enchanted creature an ability to have, when this is put into a graveyard play, return this to its owner's hand. So if we look at Spirit Loop, 1 and a white to cast, enchant creature you control. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. When Spirit Loop is put into a graveyard from play, return Spirit Loop to its owner's hand. So it bounces back to your hand from the graveyard once it hits there, like Rancor does. And if anybody's played the set with Rancor in, you know how annoying that can be for your opponent. That's a really powerful effect. So we've got, obviously an on-colour effect in each of the 5 colours of Magic. Now these ones cared about main phases. So Return to Dusk, Careful Consideration, Haunting Hymn, Sulphurous Blast, and Might of Old Crocus. So let's use Return to Dusk as an example. Remove target artifact or enchantment from the game. If you played this spell during your main phase, you may remove up to 1 other target artifact or enchantment from the game. These are all instants, so of course that would mean that you do have situations where you either don't want to play it during your main phase, but if you do, you get this additional effect. And you can see again the effects are all typical of the sort of thing you would see in that colour. So you always get that improved effect if you can time it correctly. You notice a lot of this stuff is about timing. Time spiral. But there's all this messing around with time and abusing time, or just deciding when is the most appropriate time to play a card. So here I've got all the lands in the set, both basics and non-basics. So what do we have? We have a cycle of storage lands. Let me just show you those first in here. So these are all 2 colours. Uncommon lands with tap, add, colourless. And then also, this is an additional option where you can play 1, tap it, and put a storage counter on this. And then you can play 1 to remove storage counters from it, and you add X mana in the combinations of the particular colours. And you can see here these are all actually allied. Yeah, they would be allied colours there. So it's the same for every single one, but just in the appropriate colour. And in addition, we have other non-basic lands which are printed in here. One of which is the ever popular Terramorphic Expanse, but we've also got things like Vesuva, Urza's Factory, Swarmyard, Kier Keep, and Academy Ruins. Now, if you've seen in a previous video I did about the Tempest Block, you'll know I did mention a Mega cycle. There is an alternative version of that Mega cycle which incorporates cards from this set, and I included that, I think, in the description when I was going through that Mega cycle. Now, the alternate cycle is incomplete. The original cycle is complete, but the alternate is not. And there were 2 cards in here, I believe, that make up the alternate cycle. Was it? I know Academy Ruins is one. Was it Kirkeep was the other one? Yeah, I think that's right. Also got Gemstone Caverns in here. Interesting deck. Insect, rat, spider or squirrel. And no set musing would be complete without a quick look at legendary creatures. So a couple of things going on here. There is a cycle of 2 colour legendary creatures which, in keeping with other cards we've seen here, are in allied colours. Each of these legendary creatures represents characters from Domineria's past. So we have Ranu, Kervek, Stonebrow, Safi, and Ith. Also a couple of other coloured, multicoloured legendaries which weren't 2 colour, which was Mishra, which is blue, black, red, and then Scion of the Ur-Dragon, which is a 5 colour legendary creature, dragon avatar, with flying. To search a library for a dragon card, put it into your graveyard. If you do, Scion of the Ur-Dragon becomes a copy of your card until end of turn, then shuffle your library. Cool. I think wasn't that an alternate commander in one of the 5 colour commander decks? I believe it was. And then it looks like we've got at least one legendary, one mono-coloured legendary in here. I don't think there was a cycle of mono-coloured legendaries. I could be wrong. I'm just looking to see what they cared about. Yeah, I'm not really aware of that being a thing. It just looks like there is at least one of each colour, and some there's like in white there's 2, and in red there's 3. Okay, so finally back to the set itself. Well, the funny thing is we've gone through so many cycles and themes and mechanics. I think we've pretty much covered everything from that point of view. So I'm going to go through and pick everything out here. I'm just going to quickly go down my list here. So we saw the cycle of suspend spells. There was buyback, flash auras, allied colour flashback spells, rare split second, uncommon split second, 1 mana suspend creatures are in there as well. Maybe I didn't flag that up at the time, but yeah, it was 1 mana suspend creatures were a thing. In addition to the 0 mana suspend stuff. Common Spellshapers, Magi, Totems, Rancor-like auras, Morph creatures, uncommon main phase matters instants, storage lands, 2-colour legendary creatures, 5 cycles of slivers, so common slivers that were 1/1, just common slivers that were just common slivers as well, uncommon multicoloured slivers, rare slivers that grant slivers the ability of a rare creature from Magic's past, and uncommon multicoloured slivers. Wow. So I'm just going to scroll down this and just see if anything leaps out. Because of the complexity of the set, this may be a little different than what I would usually do in these particular videos. And so because we've seen an awful lot of this, you can see just so many of these. Maybe I should focus on stuff we haven't seen. Rue Seekers. And just pick up on anything in the set that we may not have picked up on. There's a lot of exception cards here as well that say, except if. So that's target, enchantment destruction stapled onto a creature. I'd be interested, anybody watching this video, in the comments section. Obviously I've played this after the fact, so when I played this on Magic Online, or played it as drafted it, obviously I had the benefit of some of this stuff. I played earlier sets. I'd be interested in anybody that actually played this at the time and what their impression was, because I get the impression that this set very much, it was a bit of a sort of split opinion on this, really depending on, I suppose, how long you've been playing Magic before. So if you've been playing it for a long time, a lot of people that fell into that category, I think, like the nostalgia value, but this must have been a real tough set for anybody whose first experience of Magic was this set. It's like, what have I bought into here? So yeah. Momentary blink. Oh yeah. Again, what I'm trying to do is see if I can recognize certain cards which I know have cropped up a lot in Magic's history, and that's actually quite difficult in this set because so many things have similar abilities to other cards by design. And if I look at it and go, oh yeah, I've seen that before, and then when I click on it, it's like the only, it's only ever been printed in here. We did look at Return to Dust already, but I just want, that's been printed a ton of times in Commander. It's certainly, if you were interested in Slibble Tribal, if you're interested in Slibble Tribal, this was your set. There's lots of slivers in here. Oh, Cancel was in here. I suppose, if you were to look at the certain colours, if they weren't already accounted for, you're probably going to see some classic removal in here. I think how many times that's been reprinted. I know that crops up in the Mystery Booster. The tricky bit with this is if you've been playing Magic long enough, is you get to that point where you go, now this particular ability, is it an ability from an earlier set or is it one that was used later? Mystical Teachings, did that end up in... It did end up in the Mystery Booster. I'm looking at these flashbacks and was it Innistrad Block where they were playing around with flashback? Wow, there's just, I said this I think in the last set, there's just so much going. Oh yeah, Assassinate. Okay, so that's our black removal. Yeah, that's been reprinted a few times. I remember that from 10th edition. Did it have the same artwork on it? That's never changed. Dread Return. Now that cropped up in it. Yeah, that cropped up in the grave. I recognise it from the Graveborn deck. And obviously some of these have been reprinted for the Time Spiral Remastered, but that was the whole block. And just so you know, I'm not going to go through the rest of the block at this point in time. When I get round to actually building a sealed pool, building a deck from a sealed pool of Time Spiral, which will be some time off, obviously I'm going to do a set musings video for the other sets as well. And then I'll either do, I don't think I'll redo this video, but I'll reference this video somehow. Oh yeah, I remember this. Didn't this crop up in, was that in the mono black deck? I'm trying to remember what year was the year of the mono black decks, or the mono decks, with the planeswalkers that could be played as legendaries. I think that was 2013. I almost need a third screen here with an easy way to look up some of this. Oh, there's Smallpox. That was in Conspiracy. Yeah, I recognise that artwork. And Magic 2012. Was that reprinted? No, Ancient Grudge. Now that was, yeah, there we go, Innistrad. That's what I was trying to think. Yeah. I mean, it would take me a long time what I could do, but I didn't want to really go through these and totally individually. Is change the view in this, and then that would show me the reprints off to the side. Oh, Empty the Warrens. I was in Modern Masters, the first one. Grape Shot, now that ended up where? All over the place. Oh, that was the alternate artwork ones. Didn't that get printed in a dual deck? Oh no, it was in the fire. That's alright, it's in the foreign lining deck. That's where I recognise it from. That was the red one. Lightning Axe. There's been a few. Was that ever reprinted? Yep. The Elves vs Goblin deck, Eternal Masters, Mystery Booster. Pardic Dragon, which we looked at earlier. Crows and Grip in here, which we did quickly see when we looked at the split second cards. So that's cropped up, no surprise there, a few times in Commander products. Looks like from a time, yeah, it wasn't reprinted in a set until Modern Masters, if this is in order, which it normally is. We've got bees in the set. And there are our multicoloured cards. So I think we've looked at all of these before. Slivers, so 2-colour slivers, and then the legendaries. Oh, yeah, artifact creatures. So the chromatic stars in here. Candles of Leng. Yeah, lots of references to earlier cards. So chromatic stars, that was in 10th edition, and the mystery boosters, double masters. That's cropped up a few times. Again, lots of mana rocks that do similar things for similar casting costs. This Gauntlet of Power. If Gauntlet of Power comes into play, choose a colour. Creatures of the chosen colour get +1/+1. Whenever a basic land is tapped for the mana of the chosen colour, its controller adds 1 mana of that colour to his or her mana pool. I'm assuming with so much going on in the set and so many different avenues, it would have made sense at the time for them to produce a load of like mana fixing, like mana rocks, artifact mana, to deal with all of that. There's our Lotus Bloom. What have we got? So far that's at common. What I'm looking for specifically is any common mana rocks. I mean, I know we had the storage lands, which would have helped. But it's always interesting to see in a super complex set where you've got multicolours, or people might want to play multicolours, what they've got in terms of mana rocks at common. So we've got Prismatic Lens in here as well. That's been reprinted a few times. Oh, I like the artwork on that one. And there's our lands we saw earlier. What were those storage lands? They were printed at uncommon. We also had some of these totems, which obviously could be used to, to generate, at a pinch they could be used to generate a colour. To play like multicoloured decks. I mean, that's a form of fixing. I suppose it's no worse than some, three casting cost mana rocks that generate mana. And they do have the additional creature abilities on them. So I suppose there is quite a few avenues here, and we've seen already there's quite a few spells that just reduce casting costs. I know that's not going to affect the colour of the mana, but it does take the pressure off having a certain amount of lands in play, which might indirectly help. Interesting. So now we move on to the time shifted cards. I don't know how much detail I'm going to go through in these. By their very nature, they're reprints. So if we clicked on them, what we would see is you know, where they came from originally. Would be the oldest card. Quite a lot of these have subsequently been reprinted several times beyond this set as well. I think. Why is she saying that? Disenchant hasn't. Remember, what was that printed from? Oh, Arabian Nights, and reprinted in 5th edition. Wow. Oh, and Lord of Atlantis was in here. That's cropped up in core sets quite a bit. And that's the original sort of early core set artwork. If we go back, you can see, yeah, Alpha and Beta was originally in. So these are all cards that would have been in that time shifted slot. And Pirate Ship's in here as well. Unstable Mutation, Avatar of Woe, oh, and Bad Moon. She reprinted a few times there. Darkness, Delphi Slayer. So it wouldn't be surprised also to see cards in here which would be relevant to certain themes and mechanics which are in the set anyway, and they've just pulled in from earlier cards. And we got Disintegrate, that's been reprinted quite a few times. Oh, there's Spike Feeder. And that makes sense in the fact that we had funguses in this set. So, and there were some 2-colour legends as well. 2-colour cards here. God, this is, when was that done? That would have been the original. That was original Legends. So what are all of these? Not that one. Alright, that's an Ice Age legend. Oh, well, of course it had Nicol Bolas in here as well. I forgot about that. And Vati Il Dal as well. Oh, and a few uncommons. A few artifacts. And they printed Assault and Battery in the slot. What was that? That was Invasion. Wow. Serrated Arrows, yes. Oh, and Gemstone Mine. When did that come from? That came from Weatherlight. Pendlehaven and Phthalates, Safe Haven and Desert was in here. There's the original Arabian Nights one. That was in the From the Vaults as well. So some interesting cards. It's all over the shop. What did I say that was from? Yeah, Weatherlight. Oh, this card. I've got this. It's Harper Prison book promo. Wow. And the Rack and Mirari. I know that was in the Relics one. So yeah, pretty interesting set of cards. Like I said, some things obviously tie in quite nicely with the themes of the set, because there are so many. There's an older one with Morph on it. So Morph was obviously something from Scourge. Right, what do we got next? So yeah, this is going to be the most expensive cards in the set. So Gemstone Caverns, Vesuva, Gauntlet of Power. So unless I've got this wrong, no, it's not. They're not like eye-wateringly expensive like we saw some of the cards in Tempest Block. They're just somewhat expensive. Angel's Grace. See where we get below the $10 mark. Reiterate. Neither Traitor. Flagstones of Trocaire. Curvac the Merciless. Curse of the Cabal. You can see a lot of these only ever appeared in Time Spiral. Academy Ruins got reprinted. A couple of things. Actually more... Oh yeah, because that's the alternate artwork. Okay. Yeah, so we sort of drop just under the $10 mark around about here, these cards. And this, what I did was the same thing, but for the subset, you know, the time-shifted cards. So again, these are sorted by US dollars. Most of these look like you can pick them up in other sets as well for below $10. So there's a Essence Sliver. Interesting that was reprinted in that most recent set. Which there's quite a few here like that. I must have made Sliver people happy. And I suppose it's no surprise that there was anything, it wasn't anything like eye-wateringly expensive in this time-shifted slot. So just to give you some idea of, in terms of the cards from the main set, what crops up in or on EDH according to their ranking. So you can see we've got quite a few non-basic lands here. Surprise, surprise, Terramorphic Expanse is the number one card in this set that's in EDH decks on their site. Crows and Grip, Return to Dust, Prismatic Lens. Yeah, no surprise here really. Gemstone Caverns, Academy Ruin, Dread Return. We've got Cancel in here, yep. And there's Vesuva. For some reason I thought Vesuva was a lot more expensive. I don't know why. And then just out of curiosity I did this. So these are the cards that form part of that time shifted slot. And what ones there crop up in EDH Rec most of the time, or the most times. So Tormund's Crypt, Graveyard Hate, Disenchant, yeah, Mystic Snake, so we've got Flash for 1 green and 2 blue for a 2/2, but when it comes into play you can counter target spell and you still get a 2/2 creature out of that. A Chroma Angel of Wrath, a Wall of Roots. Actually, that I don't think I pointed that out. That was in this set, previously been in Mirage. After a while, Willbender, Gemstone Mine. That was, as we saw earlier, that was in Weatherlight. And the Shadow Mage Infiltrator. Well, there we go. I think I'm going to stop it there. Yeah, complicated set. But you can see what's interesting is, particularly with relevance, and that was the whole point of doing this, with relevance to the previous block, the block I've just come from, which is Tempest Block. There was a ton of stuff that was relevant to that was reprinted here. And certainly if you were big into slivers, yeah, this was a great set for that. I am going to do another set connected to this. This will be the only time I probably do 2 connected sets, just because I just want to run with the slivers thing, and you're probably going to guess what set I'm going to come up with, because it introduced an interesting twist to the slivers, and there's a bit of a story behind that and why that happened. So I think that's an interesting thing to do. So I'm going to do one more video, which is a spin-off from the Tempest block, but isn't the Tempest block, and that'll be a set from the 2010s, and you could probably guess already what it is, and I'll go through and do a set musings on that. So thanks very much for hopefully lasting out to the end. I know this has probably been a quite long video, all things considered. Oh well, 1 hour 21. Okay, but there was a lot to cover because of the sheer complexity of the set, and also the fact that it had those time shifted slots in it. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.